Hello and welcome to the Arsenal BiteSize Podcast. I'm your host Clayton at Clates AFC, and I'm obviously over the moon with yesterday's massive 3 points. And I'm delighted to say I'm joined by Aaron at FPL Plonker. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, mate, all good. I have been buzzing all day to come on this, and I think it's like one of the most perfect results to make my debut on the podcast for. So, yeah, no, thanks
Yeah,
for having me.
great timing, and yeah, I'm glad it was a win for your debut because otherwise this would have been a very depressing episode. But it's not.
Exactly.
It's a fucking brilliant one, and yeah, how general summary of yesterday. If you had to give me 3 words to summarize yesterday for you.
3 words, I'd have to say sweet, sweet victory.
Yeah, fucking incredible. Obviously, a long 8 years without a win in the league against Man City, and we've come close. Like we've come close in the last couple of years, and yeah, the gap has been bridging ever so slightly. And yeah, yesterday I was so fucking proud, and the kind of general atmosphere in the ground. I don't like. Where were you watching it? Were you in the pub or were you at home? Or
I was at home. Yeah, what
yeah,
about you?
yeah, I was obviously lucky enough to be there, and on it like big claim. I think that was one of the best atmospheres in terms of like once the goal went in, that roar
Mm,
and full time, like fuck me, man, it was absolutely bonkers. Like the actual atmosphere during the game, it was a bit flat, and I think it was kind of to do with how the game was going. It was quite chess matchy, weren't it? It was quite cagey. Like we were both feeling each other, jabbing each other, like trying to find our way, but. That noise at the end, like I heard the roar when I was going to bed last night. It was
mm.
fucking nuts. It's absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, I think it's been a weird season so far, but I think a lot of people are comparing it to last season because last season, as a like fan experience, we couldn't have asked for more.
Yeah,
It was like out of nowhere, everyone's thinking we're challenging for maybe fourth at a push, and we're suddenly challenging for title, playing unbelievable football,
yeah,
getting these last minute winner games. You couldn't. It was like the ultimate dreamland for Arsenal fans. So this season, it feels like 'cause I've heard a lot of people like criticize it a little bit, saying um, the fans have not been as good, but I think it's only natural that the expectations are higher and the football's a little bit different.
yeah,
And a lot of people want to like it's tough because I heard people talk about like, oh, why is Odegaard having to try and get the crowd up and all that? But you've got to think like we're as anxious as the players. Like we're
yeah.
like people, David
If not
Raya or
more,
whatever's
yeah,
getting criticised by Gary Neville, but us as fans, we're nervous as hell as well. So
yeah. No, it's definitely yeah. It has had a different feel to it this season, but I think it's expectation, right? Like you say,
mm,
last year we kind of were hoping for top four, come out the blocks flying, and then like August to kind of mid to late. I want to say October was just vibes, and then it was like, okay, hang on a minute, what can we actually do here? Whereas this season, it's like you come in and we're all expecting a title challenge minimum, right? And yeah, on the atmosphere, you make a good point. That I do actually think the crowd has been different this year, but that's I think because of the ballot system, which is a topic for another day. Which we do
mm.
not want any negativity around here today. We're on fucking cloud nine. So what we'll do, obviously, kind of standard routine. What we do, go through the lineups and look at some of the match stats, all that good stuff. Before we get into all of that, I've got my good old Uncle Mike in the chat. Evening,
Man like
lads.
Uncle Mike.
Man like Uncle Mike. Got Scott, Dream Team Professor, Oi Oi Gunners.
How you doing, mate?
Scott's obviously jumped on a couple of times with us this season,
Yeah, he's
and
done well,
I
to be
saw
fair, yeah.
yeah, I saw a nice comment somewhere from Mike. Where was it? Never felt so sweet walking in the office today. Lived up in Manchester for 14 years and swaggered in like Liam fucking Gallagher this morning. Love that.
I bet.
We got Bungle on as well. He's a morning lads, man like Aaron on the pod. Obviously,
Oh,
Bungle's all the way out in Tokyo. Nice one, Bungle. And yeah, he's also shouting out Mike and Scott. So
everyone loves a bit of bungle.
yeah, who doesn't love our Tokyo Guna? So yeah, so team came out, and I guess before we go into the teams, where was your head at pre-game? Like, were you confident? Were you nervous? Where were you at pre-game?
So I had a bit of a roller coaster of emotions, to be honest, because all week, I mean, I was slightly hopeful. I predicted that Saka and Partey would start. Um,
I think I did the same actually. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, there was a lot of things pointing to a Partey not starting, but I just thought like like a World Cup final. You just chuck them in and see what they can do. But once I saw the team sheet, I then saw obviously no Partey or Saka, and looking at it, I did say something on the Juice stream earlier in the week, or at the weekend, sorry, about Nketiah starting. I was like, I can't see Nketiah being the type of player to have any success in a game against someone like City.
Sure.
So when I saw it, I went from being kind of hopeful, thinking, this is probably our best chance in a long while to get a result with no Rodri or KDB.
Yeah.
Then thinking, oh God, we've got no hope. So I did honestly, like, I was gutted just at the lineup, thinking that the game was already over, which was silly of me.
Interesting.
But
I was similar but different. Like before the game, I was fairly confident. I think with same as you predicting Partey and Saka in the team. I thought if they're in the team, I genuinely think we can do them. And then similar to you, I saw the Jorginho in there, who I actually thought did really well. But pre-game, just being completely honest, I was like, oof, not sure about that. And I don't know, because Nketiah, I thought he'd be okay. Like I thought he'd press well, which he did. It was just the front three, just as a unit, was something very new, right? Like, so I wasn't really sure how I was feeling going into it. But interestingly enough, Mike said, I was suicidal after a pre-match chat with Bungle, so remind me to never speak to them too pre-match. But yeah, obviously the team news came out, right? And it was Raya in goal. The back four was White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko. Midfield three, like you say, it was Jorginho with Odegaard and Rice either side, although it was more of like a double pivot in this game. And Rice was more next to Jorginho. Odegaard was occupying more traditional higher 10 spaces. And then front three was Jesus, Nketiah, Trossard. And then obviously, I'm sure we'll talk about it, the subs, but that was the 11 that started the game. And I thought what we'd do different this game, because there's so much to cover, in this episode. Let's go player by player, because I feel like every player had a unique part to play in this role. And some of them will divide opinion, I'm sure. So the keeper, Raya, what did you think?
I've got to be honest, as someone who's been, because I've kind of been, I've been talking about a goalkeeper upgrade for a little while, because I know a lot of fans are obviously, Ramsdale's a fan favourite. I feel like I've been a little bit overcritical of him, but
I think I have as well, to be fair.
I was thinking this season would be his season to prove himself. I'm like, Ramsdale's got to step up this season, otherwise Arteta might look at another keeper. So I was kind of shocked we bought one in this early, and then I was a little bit shocked he's come in this early, to be honest. But I've said with Raya, when he comes, I think he's got the potential to be elite, but at the moment he's unproven because he's not done it at the top level. Sure. And those first few games were like the perfect games for him. They were very easy. They were almost like a breeze, and he just looked, it was impossible to look bad. I think he's looked shaky for 3 games or so now, and his distribution has been really, really poor, and it's kind of shocked me.
Do you think? I thought his distribution yesterday, I thought he held onto the ball a tiny bit too long in a couple of instances. Obviously got quite lucky with the Alvarez one where that nearly went in. But I thought, I didn't think it was excellent, but I think some of the outballs to Jesus in that second half, I thought they were fucking laser precision. And I don't know. Like it was one of my summary of Raya was I thought he was a bit shaky. I agree. I think the last 2-3 games he's not been as commanding as I think I would have hoped, especially considering the kind of gap between Ramsdale Raya. I was hoping that for someone to come in and replace Ramsdale, I want to see like a huge kind of step up. And I think there's been moments since Raya's come in the team where we've actually seen that. But in this game, I actually quite liked when he was like just holding onto the ball and kind of playing chicken. You see Edison does it. The Brighton are the specialty team at that. It's literally playing chicken with them, right? Like let them commit a kind of offensive trigger to press to then try and manipulate it around. But granted, there are a few times where the simple pass was on and he didn't do it. But there were moments where he came through it and I was thinking, fuck me, this outball to Jesus is just laser precision. And sure, like he had a mixed game, but I thought the kind of courage to come through it. And Mike's just said it as well. Mikel actually said he persisted with the brave balls rather than the hoof. And I actually misread Mike's quote. I thought he was going to say, I don't know if you saw Arteta's post-match thing. He was saying like, you kind of need someone with big balls to play like that. I was just like, kind of rated it, but yeah, but he did have my foot in my mouth in the first half quite a few times.
That's what I mean. Yeah, going back to what you said, those ones out to Jesus worked a dream, and that's when you see the potential. You're like, oh, this is what he can do, because the long balls to Tony for Brentford last season, you saw how good they were.
Yeah.
But like games before or whatever, when he was going long, there was some of them were going out of touch and all that, and I don't know, it's really surprised me because I think I had really high expectations.
Me too, to be fair.
But I think it's going to come, like you said, with the shaky moment with the Alvarez block or whatever. It is. I think it is a manager instruction to bait them in as much as possible. It's going to happen.
Yeah, but this is like the details at the top level. Like when I was watching it back, you could see Raya was having a go at Gabriel, and it's like obviously it's not comparable with the level like I've played at and you play at right now. But you know when you pass back to a keeper, like if they're right-footed, you play it in front of them, right? Like you don't play it directly to them, and it's one of those that because it was played directly to him, he had to shift it out, and it's like at the top level. These margins are so fine, and I genuinely believe this. If Gabriel, I'm not blaming Gabriel, just like how things can be so different. If Gabriel passes it in front of him on his right, I don't think Alvarez gets near him, sort of thing. So I think that's how small the margins are, and you could see them having a go at each other.
Yeah,
but, obviously he flapped a bit at the early corner, didn't he? He was kind of scrambling around a bit.
But like the crosses and all that, he's been fantastic. I think he's really been assured. There's no like real shaky moments, apart from maybe one or two. But he looks, for someone who's actually quite below average
not a
height
giant,
for a
is
keeper
he?
as well. Yeah, it's mad how comfortable he is at just catching crosses. Like he feels really, really safe when those situations happen.
Yeah, no, agree. And then it was obviously Big Benny White's 26th birthday, I think. How do you think he did? He is one of my favourite players in this team. He is Mr. Consistent, always shows up. How do you think he got him?
Yeah, I think he was great. It's really weird with Ben White because last season I did think he was just a makeshift right back because we had so many good centre backs, and he's that guy who can play there. But now I'm like, God, he really can just play as a really elite right back. I think he's so underrated, and the way we use him to push forward and help out the right wingers, like normally Saka, it's always a good outlet whenever we're in trouble. Go down the right hand side, use Odie, Saka, and White, and we can always have some joy down there. But yeah, yesterday he barely put a foot wrong. Like I thought the defense in general just shut out everything, almost everything City done. It really was like and to be fair, City done it against us as well. I think that's why the game was perceived as quite boring, because I think both defenses were just superior to the attacks.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And obviously, like, you kind of touch on it, how good our defense in general was. Saliba and Gabriel, fuck me. Like, do you see I'm sure everyone's seen this stat about Haaland's 0.0 XG again. Was it the same in the Community Shield as well?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
They're frightening together as a partnership. Like, they've got it all. And obviously, I think everyone always goes to Saliba, but I think the two of them together as a partnership are absolutely bonkers. And yeah, I just absolutely speechless with how well they did. Oh, you've gone on mute. Yeah, just while Aaron's trying to figure out his mute settings. Yeah, just carry on running through. Take your time, mate. All good.
Hello.
Just running. Yeah, all good. You're back. Aaron's just having some technical difficulties.
I have lost sound.
So we can hear him, but he can't hear us. I'm just gonna privately message him. Sorry, this is really bad for the audio. But yeah, I'll carry on running through the team while Aaron gets himself back. So yeah, it was obviously Saliba and Gabriel who were absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, the way they just shut out Haaland was a joke. And I know it's a defensive structural thing. It's not just them, it's the whole unit. But my God, there were so many kind of 50-50s where Gabriel would get dragged into kind of wide areas, which he does all the time. And he just mops up like it's absolutely nothing. Saliba, there was times where, Haaland was trying to go and body him and he falls over like a little bitch. And there was just, Yeah, there was the other one where Saliba's running back. He slips, he gets it with his head, he passes the ball on. For how young he is, it is absolutely frightening. And I'm going to bring Aaron back in. Can you hear us?
Hello.
All good, mate. Can you hear me? No, Aaron can't hear us, so I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to remove him. Sorry, bear with me. I'm just going to message him that he needs to come back on. Sorry about that. I've just messaged him. But yeah, like I said, terrible audio. But anyway, the centre-back duo, absolutely phenomenal. Zinchenko was an interesting one. I love his bravery. I love his ability to get on the ball. And I think he was phenomenal. I just thought that there are a few times where, I don't know, maybe it's just my high standards of him. I just didn't think he kind of had that same level of influence that he usually can and does. And I'm going to try for the hat-trick. Aaron, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
He's back. He's back.
Sorry about that.
It's all good. No worries. So yeah, just talking through the defense and yeah, I'd love your thoughts on Zinchenko because I didn't think he had his most imposing game on the ball, but I don't know if like I'm conscious. So basically, when I watch these games, I'm very fortunate. My season ticket seat has a great bird's eye view, and it's great for seeing all of the tactics, but I get very emotionally invested. So I think sometimes I misread a lot of things depending on the type of game. So I'd love your view on that.
Yeah, I find Zinchenko really tough because I feel like I'm a little bit more critical of him than other Arsenal fans. I don't know what it is. I think it's because I feel like there's weaknesses to his game, and a lot of his strengths rely on his passing. And when his passing isn't elite,
10 out of 10.
yeah, and like he had a cup. I can't actually remember the specific example, but he done something early in the second half, which is a little bit of a silly giveaway, and he's done it. I remember the North London derby. He done a couple ones, and
kind of goes for the Hollywood sometimes, don't he?
Yeah, and I feel like he doesn't really have that in his locker. If we're trying to get really technical, it's like if he's just say he's back where his corner flag is, and there's a triangle on, I feel like he's so comfortable on the ball, he can just quickly zip it, play it around 1-2, perfect. But I can't remember what game it was. It might have been Spurs where he had it on the left a couple of times, and he tried to just zip it to Rice out in the centre, or zip it across to Saka, and he just tries to hit full power and just scuffs it away. And it's like
that's the exact thing that I have in my head when he does it, and it really pisses me off because I think the kind of thing we're trying to evolve from last season is losing that kind of not aggression on the ball, but just have that little bit more control, right? And he's someone that his technical quality is probably one of the best in the team.
Yeah.
He, in terms of leading by example from a technical standpoint, it should be him leading it, really. I'd argue he's probably the most technical in the whole squad.
Yeah, and like another thing as well, it's like when Tommy come on, and I've actually been super critical of Tommy's passing, but I think back now because I think he's looked a lot better, and I think he's been in and out of a team, and he just comes on for 15 minutes of games, and sometimes he's looked sloppy in the passing. But I'm looking at it now, and the way he bombs forward, sort of like what White does on the right, and I'm like, Zinchenko doesn't do that. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm just being super critical of Zinchenko, but I feel like. Yeah, like someone like Tommy, who obviously is involved in the build-up for the goal, gets forward, can defend more. And then saying that, Zinchenko actually surprised me now, well, defensively done up against Doku. So
that first duel, right? I was like, I remember Doku came on, I was like, ah, fuck. Like, and they were squaring up 1v1, and he did brilliant.
Yeah,
did absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I celebrated that like it was a goal because I was thinking I'll get Tommy on right now because I could see this being like, when Trent nuts Zinchenko in the Liverpool game, I was thinking that was going to happen again. It would cost us, but I think there was a couple duels Zinchenko just completely done Doku on, and then Doku had to switch to the other side. He had no joy over there either. So
for what it's worth, I like your point about kind of the difference that you get with Tomiyasu and Zinchenko, because this is where I mean, my opinion on this. Like, I just fucking love the versatility of this squad because in my head, I could not give a shit about first team kind of favorites and stuff. I'm
Yeah,
just the starters and finishers thing. Like I absolutely love it, and I just think having someone like Zinchenko to start a game and really dominate and try pin a team there, and then hopefully you're winning, and then you bring on a Tomiyasu to shut up shop, or what he flipping did yesterday, running off the ball, which I didn't know he had in him.
yeah. Do you
Absolutely
think?
brilliant.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, no, go for it, man.
Do you think players and their profile is just what they do on the pitch, or do you think Arteta actually instructs this? Because it's like quite interesting that Tommy does get forward, and it's like, oh, is that Tommy gets forward, but Zinchenko don't, and Ketia doesn't switch with the wingers as much, but Jesus does. Is that just the nature of the player, or is Arteta just saying play to your strengths? Like it's
Yeah,
interesting
I
because
reckon it's exactly that. I reckon it's playing to the strengths. I think it's a bit of both. I think obviously everyone
yeah,
has their own like default factory setting, right, in terms of what
yeah.
comes natural to them. And then I think there's elements that is what can you extract from them for the team's needs. So that's what I think it is. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know honestly because I find it interesting because like I mean I don't see Zinchenko as someone who can do the overlapping or bombing down like someone like
I'd say
Tierney could
it
do.
does the overlapping sometimes. I think it's more his strength on the ball is just kind of play to that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah,
I think
but
I mean if we're pressing up the pitch, he can get up there, but I think like he hasn't got the pace to just burst down and
yeah,
really take a man on, especially Walker down there. But then I think to someone like Nketiah, and I think why wouldn't Arteta want Nketiah, you know, dropping deep, switching with the wingers the way Jesus does? Makes me think, oh, maybe it is just the nature of the player because I don't know if how well Nketiah could do that.
yeah, yeah. It's a good question
Interesting.
to be fair. But yeah, that was the back four. And just before we move on to midfield, Ben, Uncle Mike's obviously put in a really good point about inject that Ben White nuts on Doku.
Oh,
That was fucking quality, wasn't it?
mate, Ben
And
White has got that in him quite often, I think.
he's a shithouse, isn't he?
Yeah.
And got Hassan in the chat. Obviously, he's joined us before. Evening, mate.
I do, mate.
And then on to the midfield. So yeah, obviously it was Jorginho, Rice, and Odegaard. Go on, take your pick. Where do you want to start?
Well, let's just get Deckers out of the way because,
He's a joke.
mate, honestly, I actually can't compute it how good he
Same.
is. I could argue he's been man of the match every single game he's played, which is
Yeah.
crazy.
He's been
And
top 2 or 3 each game, hasn't he?
yeah, 100%. And I actually missed the comment from Gary Neville, but I saw it on Twitter after. Apparently, he said that Rice done nothing in the first half and needs to improve. And I couldn't
Okay.
disagree more. Like, you can maybe argue he didn't create anything on the ball, but defensively, like, Rice has this like super talent of just getting his foot where human
Like
legs shouldn't be
extends.
getting to. Yeah, I think there was an Alvarez shot where he skied it over the bar, but Rice closed him down from 20 yards away. Like he got
Yeah.
there just enough to put him off. I was like, this guy is literally superhuman.
He's a freak, isn't he? And to be fair, so I didn't actually hear that Neville comment, but I didn't even personally think this was Rice's best game, which speaks
Mm,
volumes that like how
yeah,
fucking good he was still. Like that the bar is that high for him. And his ability to win tackles is I don't like this is a big claim, but I don't think I've seen anything like this in my adult life in terms of just watching a centre midfielder win the ball like this. He's an absolute freak with it. And yeah, is that the one you were talking about? No, you spoke about Alvarez doing a shot. There was another one where someone was running and he just kind of made up the ground from nowhere and just scooped it from behind him. Is that the one
yeah.
you were talking about, or was that a different
No,
one?
no, but I remember that one as well. But
He's,
there was a couple ones that didn't work out, but he had no right to get to. And I
yeah,
think he's just got this. He can just read
he's
the
got
game
spidey senses,
so
hasn't he?
well. Yeah, he just knows. He knows what the opponent's going to do before they play it. He knows exactly when they're going to play it, and he'll just jump in. And yeah, he's one of the best in the world at doing that. He honestly is.
100%. Yeah, he's someone that I obviously rated and knew he was good, but he's better than I thought he was at West Ham. Like, just there's fucking levels to him that I just did not know existed. He's a freak of nature. And then I thought he complemented Jorginho really well. I like just being completely transparent, was not over the moon when I saw Jorginho in the team before the game, but he always does well against City, and he brings this tactical and technical maturity to this team that even to get yellow carded and play the way he did for the rest of the game, I thought it was a really, really good, smart, professional performance from him. Thought he was very good. How do you think he got on?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's sort of the classic Jorginho game where once he's just, especially in a game where I think both teams were fighting for control,
Yeah,
it's a Jorginho game. Like it's a
yeah,
Jorginho game completely. Like the North London derby, getting subbed on in just a crazy chaotic game probably was the worst game for him, and obviously resulted in a mistake. But I didn't think about it at the time because I thought if Partey wasn't fit enough, Havertz would drop into midfield and then
same.
Nketiah would start.
Me too.
Um, and then obviously when I saw Jorginho, I wasn't like you. I wasn't over the moon with it. But
But it's one of
in
those when you see
hindsight,
it, it's like it makes sense, right?
yeah, I'm like, why didn't I think about it? I was like, this is a perfect fit for Jorginho, really.
That's why we're sat here on a Monday night and we're in the
Exactly,
jobs
yeah.
we're in. Yeah, and then Odegaard, I've seen mixed, not narratives, but I've seen mixed opinions about him. What did you think? Because I thought, although he didn't get on the ball as much as we're used to and stuff, I think that's just nature of the fucking opponent we're playing. But the kind of, in air quotes, soft factors, I thought he was leading the press and instructing things, which are things you don't really pick up unless you're really looking out for it. And he was so good off the ball, in my opinion, in leading the press. Like I said, instructing everyone where to be. And I think in a game like this with such tight margins, I think that is invaluable. I thought he was brilliant. I thought it was a captain's performance from him in terms of off the ball, like drill everyone, keep everyone honest. I thought he was phenomenal in that, but I don't know if I've had a complete different read on it.
No, I think so. I was seeing the same. There's been like some Twitter talk about Odegaard being rubbish or whatever. I literally didn't notice that at all. And I see it quite a lot though. If Saka doesn't score, there's people talking about how bad Saka is and all that. And it's
Yeah,
like Saka doesn't have to take on a defender every single time he gets the ball and score every time he does something. Like I think people have expectations of Odegaard just winning the game for us or doing something world class every single game. But
yeah,
it was quite interesting, like the way the press was. It almost felt like a 4-4-2 sometimes,
it
like
did.
having
Yeah,
Nketiah and Odegaard, and then with Havertz as well. Um, but yeah, Odegaard was fine. He didn't create anything which won us the game, but he was just good. Like
yeah.
there's not much to say. Like
And then obviously going on to the front three, what did you think of Trossard from the first half? Obviously, supposedly went off with an injury, right? And I'm not sure on the severity of it, but I know he's withdrawn from the Belgium squad. So obviously, fingers crossed that's not too serious. But what did you think of him in the first half?
yeah, I mean he did seem quiet. I think I wasn't expecting a halftime sub, and obviously the injury did make sense. But he's shown a little bit of inconsistency, Trossard. Like sometimes he looks amazing, and his actual GA output is always been good. But
Yeah, his end product's a joke.
yeah, that Lons game, he was probably one of the worst games I've ever seen him have. And then yeah, he was quiet today, but I actually thought tactically he'd match up well with Walker because um, someone running at Walker, he's not
Yeah,
naturally going to work. You think Martinelli just trying to burst past Walker isn't the right style. And I thought
yeah,
Trossard, who loves a dummy, loves a feint, loves twisting and turning,
drifting
might
into
work out.
pockets and stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I was wrong again because Martinelli come on and I was like, wow, like superstar factor. He looked
yeah.
insane.
This is where I always love getting other people's opinions because I was really disappointed in Trossard, and my
Yeah.
thing, like I nitpicked like hell. I feel like structurally as a team, everyone had zones to occupy, right? And they did it like 10 out of 10, absolutely phenomenal. But I felt like with Trossard, again, and this is something if people watch it back, I'm sure they'll kind of pick up on it. I felt like he was always half doing things. He was like half pressing. He was half in the zone, and it was never
Right.
committing. And then I remember Martinelli came on, and it was bang, hold the width, just immediately, and
Yeah.
everything like had a purpose to every action. And it just felt like Trossard was a little bit indecisive in both on and off the ball decision making. And I really picked up on that. And like at the time, I was happy he got subbed. Obviously, I didn't know he was injured. And that's where immediately you see the impact of Martinelli. And again, like, because I was sat next to my mate and I was saying to him, like, am I being harsh? And he said the same thing, like, no. So it's interesting what sort of things you pick up, but I get very fixated on such random things sometimes that
Yeah,
it's probably not the most relevant. But yeah, I agree with you. He's someone that this is why this is a chat for another day, and like maybe if we got time in the Q&A or whatever. But I really think we need another winger that is of the level of Saka and Martinelli, because I think that, and someone profile wise that can be as direct as them. Because I like the versatility that Trossard provides, but I still think I know people say about Nelson, but he's not of Saka and Martinelli's level. I just think we still need someone that can give us that directness and just that explosiveness that Martinelli changed the game on his own pretty much. Yeah, he's frightening when he came on.
yeah. I mean, you got to think. You got to think. I was things I was saying at the end of the season was like what sort of positions were needed to, fill the depth issues, and I feel like
Yeah,
we've covered almost all of it now. Like, well, I think that right wing cover for Saka, which that was one thing I said at the start of the season, because we haven't really seen Saka injured. It's not been a problem. I was like, that one Saka injury, I think is the one spot which really downgrades us.
yeah,
And I actually thought Jesus was really good on that right wing. I think he
same.
looks a lot better on the right than the left.
Agree.
Um, but I think that just it definitely gives us an opportunity to get get us a right winger who can play left as well. Like
Yeah,
someone like Pedro Neto, who we've been linked with. Like I
yeah,
think that's a really good
be all
smart
over
buy that
that.
would be.
Yeah, it's interesting because obviously, what was it like 18 months, 2 years ago? We were after Rafinha, right? And then
Yeah.
just didn't really go for anyone right wing again, unless I'm having a mind blank. But yeah. But on that note, what did you think of Jesus? Yeah, you kind of touched on it. What did you think?
Yeah, I really. We've not seen him. I can't remember how many games we've actually seen him play there. It's only been a couple, I think, on the right.
Yeah, I don't think it's
Um,
been millions, no.
yeah, I know he's played it on
Not
the
for us
on.
anyway.
Yeah, I know he's played it on the right for City, but I didn't actually. You saw him play well on the right for City, but I didn't think it was a sustainable thing. But I really thought he looks kind of natural there. Like, we know
Yeah.
how good he is at just dribbling and carrying the ball. He always loves to try something. There were a couple of things he did which really frustrated me. I don't know. Remember there was a pullback for Rice which he declined to take, and I think he tried to shoot or take another touch or something.
Yeah.
Um, and that is something with his game which does annoy me, because he can be wasteful sometimes. But
It's kind
you
of
know,
part and parcel what you get with him, right? Isn't it? It's like that
yeah,
kind of
yeah. Again,
unpredictability.
yeah. If you're going to be super critical, it's the one thing which you can like say he should be. If he's a guy who can score 25, 30 goals in a season, he'd be probably one of the best strikers in the world.
Yeah.
Um, but you love it, like someone who can just take initiative, try something different. Um, every single game he doesn't play, and it is Nketiah. And I know I don't want to bash on Nketiah too much, but the front three always feels a little bit more rigid. When Jesus is playing, it's just
Yeah, it unlocks everyone around him, right?
just everything's more fluid. He's just here and everywhere. It's just like I always feel more confident when Jesus is playing. Like that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree. I thought he was fucking phenomenal, man. Like, he is someone, I said this when we first signed him, his aerial ability for his size and
Mm,
height, he's so deceivingly strong. Like that, like we touched on earlier, that outball to him from Raya, always he'd win it. I'd love to see the
yeah,
stats on like his duels, but I think he was so good in his aerial duels,
yeah,
and yeah, even when he gets the ball in tight spaces, the way he dribbled. There was one he did. Oh my god, there was one time where the ball, like we just kind of overloaded it really nicely to the right, and it looked like there was nothing, and he just drops the shoulder and he's gone, and then he creates
mm,
some space, and his close control is just frightening, and yeah, I found that really encouraging. His cameo, well, it's not a cameo, he played there, but it is something that I look at as okay, like if we're looking at stopgaps in the meantime, I feel I like Jesus there and
yeah,
Nketiah on the through the middle more than I like Jesus on the left.
yeah,
Yeah, I think
100%.
it looked a lot more natural. And on Nketiah, I thought he was brilliant. I'll be completely honest. I
Really?
thought he was, yeah. When I say brilliant, I mean off the ball. I think his pressing was so good. Genuinely, I thought he covered. I think he knew when to like. I I saw this isn't my own opinion. I saw it somewhere on Twitter, but it's something that when I read it, I was like, "Oh, that's a really good point. I agree with it." But it's escaped me who I saw it from. When the ball went to Aki, he was always the trigger for our attack to go. And I feel like one thing Nketiah was doing really well was holding his space. He was blocking passing lanes. And I think that's the thing that I found this really interesting with our crowd. I feel like our crowd yesterday was just encouraging, just press. It's like, no, don't fucking do that because they'll murder you. Like,
Yeah,
press in the right areas. And I thought that's what I know I said Odegaard led the press, but I thought Nketiah was a big person in leading it from the front. I thought he put in a hell of a shift. And there was one, I remember I celebrated this like we just won the bloody Champions League when he chased Ruben Diaz down on the side and he just clattered him out of nowhere. And like that's something that gets the crowd going. And I know that's very your dad to like kind of outline something like that, but I think this is where, sure, on the ball, like we know his limitations, but I just think this guy tries so hard to kind of get to the level where he's probably not good enough for the level he's trying to get to, but he's flipping trying, and all I can ask for is that, and we've got such a talented squad that I think you can afford to have two or three people that. Okay, maybe not two or three, but you can have someone that's technically a little bit more limited, but he tries as hard as everyone else. And I think with how important off the ball work is in this Arsenal team, I really respected and rated his performance yesterday, but I feel like I'm in the minority with that. I feel like your reaction to that was you weren't too keen on him.
I mean, no, well, I do agree. Like the press, and it's quite interesting just talking about the press and like the crowd wanting to just fully go for it and shut everything down because that Community Shield game, I was so shocked about how like little press there was from us. It was obviously a deliberate instruction from Arteta to almost have zero press on the back four. It felt like Edison could just walk the ball up, or the centre backs just walk the ball up, and Havertz and Odegaard would retreat. And I was wondering whether that would happen again in this game, and it wasn't as much
Yeah,
as that because that was just that fully felt like we are not getting out of shape by anything City do. We are just
yeah,
standing solid. Um, but yeah, and Nketiah has always been good at pressing, and Jesus as well is great at pressing.
yeah,
And Nketiah shuts things down. I think he scored goals where he shut the keeper down before.
yeah. I think
So
that was
I've never
against
doubted
Leeds,
that
wasn't
on
it?
him.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've never doubted that with him. It's just,
on the ball
yeah,
you
it's
want to
just
see
on
more,
the
right?
ball. Yeah, and it's like
Yeah,
to be hypercritical again. It's like things Nketiah's good at is he's won the pressing, and if he's in a situation where you roll the ball into him where he's in the box and he's got a man on his back, sometimes he can just roll the man so easy. And I thought he probably could do that to an Ake or a Diaz if it's the right scenario. But I thought, other than that, I can't really see any way he gets any sort of success. Um, but that was my expectations going in, and like you said, he's not our number one striker. He's ended up playing a
yeah,
lot of games for us, but in an injury crisis with an injury, he is good enough to step up and do a job. But yeah, I think he started almost every game barring one. I think this season. I think that's just where you like you don't. I don't personally want to see him every game, but
sure.
I'm not. I realise I'm being critical of him, but
No, I don't think it's
yeah.
being critical. It's just kind of saying it as you see it, right? Yeah, but so obviously that was the kind of starting 11. So I'm conscious we've not spoke about the subs, but I still want to save that for like the next bit. So what I like to do is we use this graphic from Mark our stat spot, and obviously it just kind of talks through the general match stats. It gives a nice, yeah, it's basically a statistical look on the game, and I always find this really interesting because I love that we speak about what we felt first and then say, okay, what statistically was it saying? And for people on the podcast, the stats from this game, like I said, it's from Mark our stat spot. The XG was zero point 0.5 to 0.77. Expected threat was 0.97 to 1.02. Possession 49.3 to 50.7. Field tilt. This surprised me, I'll be honest. 66.7% for us to their
Wow.
33.3. Defensive action height was 57 to their 42.4. And like all I read from this was exactly what I felt. It just felt like a chess game. And it just felt like there were different periods of the game where they were moving closer to checkmate. We were moving closer to checkmate. And it's one of those, other than our goal, I wouldn't say we had a clear chance per se. I'd say their one was probably obviously from the corner, which that was a bit scrappy, and then Aki was like half bouncing around. But it just felt like a game where I thought both defenses were absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, my general feeling of the game as it was going was, I know, like, again, you touched on it earlier, and it's something I've seen a lot of people saying it was so boring. And it's like, what do you want from football? Because for me, that was like my tactical wet dream. Like,
Yeah.
I thought it was two of the best tacticians in world football just canceling each other out, and I take so much enjoyment from that. Like, as a kind of tactical nerd, forgetting I'm an Arsenal fan. But yeah, how did you feel like the general flow of the game went?
Yeah, I mean, it's really weird to think, but it felt like it was like a World Cup final sort of
Yeah,
vibe. So where both teams just really, really cagey, didn't want to make a mistake. But I sort of think it was deliberate because I feel like Pep's always put a priority on control, and it feels like Arteta this season is now moving towards that. Last season it was fast starts and go for the
yeah,
jugular from the off, and it's clearly never worked against City. So I don't know whether this has been a thing why Arteta's sort of changed towards his control because he wants to do this for games like City.
yeah.
Um, but that's what's going to happen. I can imagine, unless Pep or Arteta want to do another tactical surprise, it could happen again in the reverse fixture.
Yeah,
But yeah, I thought at the start of the game we were quite sloppy with our passing, and I think
agree.
that's happens. It's happened quite a lot this season where we just have these silly giveaways or things just don't come off and it goes out for a throw in. It's just really frustrating.
Yeah,
But that was maybe the first 20, 25 minutes. And then the end of the first half, we got back in it. And I thought I actually got really, really confident then. I thought we were literally, I could only see us scoring and them not. And they didn't really have a sniff in the second half at all. I mean, I know we didn't create much, but
it's like who was dominating the ball, right? And
yeah,
the kind of
yeah,
field tilt kind of highlights that. And mate, I felt exactly the same. That first 2025, I was like, oof, okay, they're not creating, but they had the ball a lot and they were moving us. And at the same time, we were in structure. It's just it felt uncomfortable. And the same as you, it was kind of getting to half time, and I thought, okay, like, we're in this. And then honestly, second half, the way we started that, I after that didn't really feel not nervous, like, because I at no point did I think, yeah, we're going to go and actually win this. I always just thought, okay, we're not going to lose.
yeah,
And there were periods where it was just like we were knocking, but not really creating. But I just thought our team's tactical performance to kind of ride that really hard wave, come through that, and then go toe to toe with literally the team that won the treble last year. Okay, granted they had Haaland, sorry, not Haaland, De Bruyne and Rodri missing, but still we had Saka missing. It's still, you're going toe to toe with one of the best around, and I thought our performance was absolutely phenomenal in the way we managed it. And like you say, that kind of level of control, we didn't lose our head. And this is what I loved. Like, this is where it's perhaps really unpopular when the whole crowd was screaming at Raya to boot it. I could see Arteta like communicating with him, and he was like, "Yeah, relax." And this is the thing with this team: is like there were loads of moments where, remember last year, Ramsdale would get the ball and he'd boot it to Martinelli, and we're off.
yeah,
There were loads of moments we could have done that, but they didn't. They're like, okay, let's just compose ourselves, build, go slow, get your structure in place. And I think it was Clive from Arsenal Vision that was saying this on a pod, just kind of, you don't go for offensive actions until you've got your offensive structure in play. And that's
mm,
exactly what you can see now. It's like we're not seeing a half opportunity and going for it. It's like we're good enough to dismantle a team. Let's just get ourselves in structure first. And I just think the maturity of this Arsenal team is actually it's it's scary. And it was a performance I was just really proud of, to be honest. Like, that's the word I would use, the
yeah.
tactical astuteness of it.
Yeah, I think in the back of a lot of our minds, it was like last season where we performed well against City, but there'd be like a Tommy Asu mistake and it cost us. And I
Yeah,
think that was in the back of our mind. It was like, oh, it's just one mistake here, which is going to cost us a result. And that's what I was thinking early on. I was like, Jorginho or Zinchenko or Raya, someone's going to make a mistake at the back and they're going to score. And I think that was like, I think the fans were obviously anxious. The players were a little bit tense.
man, our
And
fans were so anxious. It was a joke. Like,
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
like it. It's
yeah,
not great for the players.
yeah. That's what I mean. It's it's tough because it's natural because we're going through exactly what the players are going through.
Yeah,
Like they're tense, we're tense, and then but you just got to think we've got to do our bit. We've got to support them and help them through it. But that's only more credit to them because, like you said, the treble winning side is rattling us, and we come through it, even
Yeah.
with a KG fan base who are literally like just as scared and as anxious as them.
Yeah, and this is why, like, sometimes I do think, well, is that why we do better away from home?
Yeah.
But yeah, but obviously, like I said, we've not spoke about the subs. So we spoke about that 25-minute period they had. We get into halftime, we're feeling all right. Second half, we come out strong. Martinelli comes on for Trossard, and then there's just a spell where you can kind of see it from the graph as well. Like, not so much the expected goals one, but the threat, like the gap between City's expected threat and ours, it is slowly closing, and we're getting on the ball more. We're getting on the ball more. And then what I love, and I remember this as well. So Pep made 3 subs, right? So he put on Stones, Nunes, and Doku for Lewis, Kovacic, Alvarez. And I remember you could see Arteta looking, and he does this a lot. I think he waits for a team to make their move and then he reacts. And you spoke about it
Yeah.
earlier. Doku came on against Zinchenko, so he was like, okay, let me get Tommy on. And then Doku flipped. And it just felt like these two geniuses continuously getting one
Yeah.
up on each other. But they made their triple sub, and then we assessed that and we made ours. And ours was obviously Tomiyasu, Havertz, and Partey, who came on for Zinchenko and Ketia, Jorginho. And you know what? When they came on, I felt like, wow. And one thing I want to say as well, I think the disrespect for Thomas Partey as a footballer has been absolutely bonkers. Like, I think
Mm.
people have forgot. Like, sure, we know his availability issues, and sure, he can sometimes be a bit too aggressive with his pass selection. But I think people have really dismissed him far too quickly in terms of just how bloody good he is. And once I saw him come on, we both predicted him in our lineups without any minutes under his belt. That's how much we rate him. Once he came on, and even I was happy with the Havertz sub as well, because I thought Nketiah had really put in a shift. I thought he was blowing. And from what Havertz did in the Community Shield, I was like, okay, stick this guy up top for the final 20 or so. Tomiyasu for Zinchenko's a move we've seen before. How are you feeling when they all came on?
Yeah, it was the perfect subs at the perfect time, and it paid off perfectly. Like I said, I've really come around to Tomiyasu. I've been critical of him in the past, but I think he's been absolutely brilliant. Like left foot, right foot, left back, right back, centre back,
Yeah.
getting up the pitch, inverting as well. He looks absolutely incredible. And I think they showed like a wide shot of the goal and how Tommy attacked that space when was it Party who
Yeah.
played the ball up? Was
Yeah, it
it
was
Party?
Party. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was watching it and just watching Tommy, and I was like, "God, I would never have had the instincts to run at that time down that space." And he'd done it. Party found him. It was like watching a left winger. But
Yeah.
yeah, like Party as well is on the ball. You just think he's playing FIFA on amateur
Yeah.
mode. Like
It,
he's
that's
there's
the
like a
best
force field
analogy. Yeah.
around him. Like he can literally just if you come towards him, he'll just walk past
Pivot
you. Like
out.
sometimes
Yeah.
it's like that. Um, yeah, we've missed him, man. Like as good as Rice is, you want them both. You want them both on the pitch.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
want them both on the pitch.
But yeah,
Yeah,
that sub, my God, like the fact that all of them combined for it as well, and obviously Martinelli who came on early, got the goal. It's interesting that I know it was on target, but like it was a clear deflection, but still, we'll take
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, I was watching a video. I don't know if you know James Alcott, and I was watching a video of him. He was like breaking down the goal, and this is not something I picked up either. So yeah, it's not my opinion, but he spotted something amazingly. It was so Party had the ball in that kind of quarterback space. Rice was pointing at Tomiyasu to attack the space,
Oh,
and then
really?
obviously they knew, and so he was kind of insinuating this was, and you touched on it earlier in terms of profiles, right? Zinchenko wouldn't make that run. Is that something that Arteta spotted as a potential gap in a game of such fine margins, where
Yeah,
you look at a flipping inverted left back who is traditionally a centre back that can play right back to make that run? And yeah, Rice instructed him to move. He went. Party plays in the ball. Tommy headers it down. I actually thought Havertz was going to twat it. I thought he was going to volley it.
oh,
But
really?
then
Yeah,
he was really composed. He laid it off, and the rest is history. And the Emirates
yeah,
went absolutely bonkers. Honestly, that, like I said at the start, that is definitely up there in terms of top 3. I want to say it was the best limbs I've been involved in. That was actually my
yeah.
125th Arsenal game I've been to,
Oh,
which
bloody
popped up
hell.
on that
Yeah.
app I track. Yeah,
I was
but
going to say it felt more like all those last minute winners and all that. It was just electric, like crazy fairy tale stuff. That one just felt, I don't know. It was more like as someone watching it from home as well. Like I had a completely different reaction. It wasn't limbs for me. I just felt.
well, I'm sure you went mental though, like screaming and stuff.
I
Yeah.
felt I went mental, but it felt more like poetic. Like
Okay.
I was a little bit disbelief, but
Sure.
I was like, this is like just more amazement and awe
Yeah.
rather than like limbs. But I was just
Sure.
watching it in a quiet room by myself. But
Yeah. No, it's
um,
just I think it's the accumulation of what we said earlier, right? It's the last two home games in the league. We've been getting closer, and I'm sure we got walloped at the Etihad, like not denying that. But the last two home games, the one on New Year's Day, the one last year, where you again you said it like last year. I thought we did really well until Tommy's mistake, and then yeah, and I feel like there was another mistake for another goal, but that's escaped me. I just felt like until that we were doing well, and it just what you say about relief, I think it's because we've been slowly bridging this gap, and
exactly.
we
Yeah,
belong there. We really do. We
yeah.
showed it last season throughout the whole, well, 3 quarters of the season. So yeah,
And it's
this was
like,
huge.
yeah, I said it's like as well. It's like us Arsenal fans. Like I remember us getting bantered for one of the games a couple of seasons ago where we lost to a last minute winner to them 2-1 or something, and we were
Yeah,
being positive, saying, "Oh no, we
that
were
was the one
happy with
on
how
New
we
Year's Day.
performing."
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
when
Then like we
Martin,
were getting
when
bantered
Gabriel
saying
got
like,
sent off. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, and we were getting bantered saying, "Oh yeah, celebrating like performance, but we still lost." Blah blah blah. And that's why it felt a bit more justified. It's like, no, we saw this was coming. The same
yeah,
way we closed down the Liverpool curse is
yeah,
the same way we've closed down this one. And don't get me wrong, last season, you know, there were moments of feeling really defeatist, you know, because I remember
yeah,
I think Pep played Bernardo Silva left back up
yeah.
against Saka, and if they still beat us 3-1, I was thinking, Jesus, like it feels like Pep can just do whatever he wants and they're just
And
gonna
just
win no matter
yeah.
what. Yeah.
One
But
thing I'll say about them. Oh, sorry, go on, mate.
I was just gonna say, I was like, it feels like Arteta isn't getting tactically walked around by Pep anymore. It feels
No.
like Arteta's putting surprises on Pep this time.
Yeah, 100%. One thing I'll say about City, to be fair, they you know that 25 minute spell when they had the ball, I was just in awe. I was like,
Yeah,
the way they just keep it and move it, and it feels like again, my friend I was sat next to, we were just saying it feels like every person that has the ball with them has three options around them.
yeah,
And it sometimes got to the point where I felt like we had the ball in our first third and it was like it felt like we weren't passing with purpose. It felt like we were
yeah.
reactionary passing, and
Mm,
it made me think fair play. Like that they are so good, and that's why I'm even more proud of this man. Like to come through that period, and then yeah, look at the stats. It speaks for itself how even the game was given how they started it. Uh,
mm.
and that Phil tilt, I know Phil tilt's a stat that people are kind of going in on, but like to do that against City is a joke. And I think you know the other thing that speaks volumes. We've come this far through the pod, and we've not even mentioned the red card that should have been either.
I know.
Like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I what did you think of it? I feel like we have to talk about it.
Well, I mean, yeah, if it's one of those ones, if we did lose that game, it'll be a much bigger talking point. But yeah, it's. I mean, I've mentioned FIFA a couple of times tonight, but when you play FIFA and like, if you generally just get a bit annoyed at your opponent and you just literally do a sliding tackle from behind, you get
Yeah.
an instant red. I was like, that's what he felt like he'd done. It was just a
Did you think
complete
it was a
studs up
straight
from
red
behind
then?
challenge. You could argue it's a yellow. You could argue it's yellow. Like it was, it did feel like it was one or the other. Like if he's sent off, I don't think many people would complain that much. But
No.
then the yellow card after, I was like, you could argue he's getting a
Yeah.
red and a yellow in that game, and he only gets one yellow.
Yeah.
It's, I don't think any any unbiased football fan can say that Kovacic should have still been on the pitch. But
No, well, I checked at half time because obviously I was there. I couldn't really see the detail, the VAR. First thing I do is look at my group chats, which obviously I'm from Enfield, which is very Spursy, unfortunately. And I had loads of Spurs fans saying like I have no idea how he's not sent off. So
yeah,
that spoke volumes for me. But yeah, that was bonkers. I thought same as you. I thought first one could have been a straight red, and then I think the second one's definitely a yellow. It just felt like they kind of agreed pre-game, no matter what, keep this 11v11. It's like you cannot referee a game like that. You cannot
no,
just go in with these premeditated ideas at all. But I'm just so glad that it's not a talking point that we need to cover per se, but just Also, we're lucky Odegaard didn't get injured, right? Well, and Rice.
Yeah, the replay on Odegaard one looks nasty, like
Yeah,
really nasty. But I
yeah,
thought Pep would have made a change earlier, to be fair. But like with Nunes on the bench, I thought, I could see him coming on straight away to just avoid a disaster.
yeah.
But yeah, I
Nah.
thought again, like I think Pep always tries things. Like Rico Lewis seemed a bit of a curveball. Maybe Arteta wasn't expecting it, but yeah, I want to go quickly back to that the goal with Havertz.
Yeah, go for it.
'Cause I thought like when I think it was Ake, he proper barged into the back of him,
Yeah,
and like he done so well to just keep strong and lay that off.
yeah,
And yeah, I think Havertz is growing more and more. There's things he does that are so tidy and nice, but again, there is weaknesses and limitations to his profile, which I'm starting to think now that where he's replaced Xhaka in the Xhaka role, it almost feels like he is a similar, different but similar player to Xhaka a little bit, where he's got physicality, he loves
yeah.
a foul and a challenge, and he's
He does
not.
the defensive work brilliantly, don't he?
Yeah, and he's not one for scoring bags of goals, which is mental because we bought him as
To
a
do that.
Chelsea striker. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, and that's where, ironically, I'm not going to lie. I think if you're just analysing the two as left eights, I think Xhaka was better as goal scoring
yeah,
potential, which I think is kind of bonkers. But I think Havertz up top, every time I've seen him, I've loved it.
yeah,
Really liked
yeah,
it. And that's one that, okay, if we're without Saka, I'd like to see Jesus and Havertz up there. Jesus on
yeah,
the right, Havertz central, and Martinelli to the left. I think that could be tasty. But it's one of the Arteta. I've got so much you probably heard me. I've been quite vocal, and I have been quite disappointed with Havertz because I think there's a lot of proactive off the ball offensive movements missing. But it's one of those. Arteta, I would trust him like with my life.
mm,
You just know he's just on everything, and he's so psychologically switched on, tactically switched on. He'll figure it out, not a doubt in my mind. So much faith
yeah.
behind him.
I think there is a lot. I've been trying to die on the Havertz hill a bit, and I've been just analysing.
We both started with him in our FPL teams, didn't we?
Yeah. But I've been watching. Honestly, I've been watching everything he does, every
Sure.
touch on the ball he's done, and because there are times when I think, God, like if he's. Sometimes I worry he isn't a good player, and like, can he even get out of his sticky situation? And he does it a lot of the times, and I feel like we just have to reevaluate who he is
Yeah.
because I don't think he's gonna. I mean, he's gonna score some goals. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think he's that in the box player. When he first signed, I thought he'd be that aerial outlet where
Yeah.
we'd get Odegaard or Saka on the right wing and we'd cross it back post, and he's gonna be
Same.
Havertz coming in, heading
That's
in.
why I stuck him in my fucking fantasy team. That's what I
Yeah,
thought
yeah,
we'd
we've,
get 20 times a season. Yeah.
yeah, we've not seen any of that yet, and it may
Nah.
still come, but like you said, with the flexibility, like he is something different, and
Yeah.
he is tall, he is strong, he's great in the air. If we want to go long, he can hold the ball up and lay
Yeah.
it off. So
And
I still have
he's
faith he'll
got a
come good.
banging song, so he has to start scoring.
Exactly, yeah. But what would
Right.
you think? Sorry, just quickly on
No, go for it.
like we obviously all assuming that we want Party Rice Odegaard in the big games. Do you think we should do that every game? Like just say home Sheffield United, just put faith on Rice getting forward, or do you think it's too defensively solid for a game where we should be going more offensive?
So it's interesting that because a lot of people say, "Oh, it's too defensive," and I think people get wedded to names more than if we play
Yeah,
Party Rice and Odegaards against Sheffield United. It's not going to be a double pivot, is it? Rice is going to be playing like how Xhaka would, and no one would say, "Oh, that's too defensive against Sheffield United." I don't know why people have this concept because Rice has been playing six and Party is a six. They think, "Oh, that's way too defensive." But Rice wouldn't play as a six there. But to the first point you made, I wouldn't do it against Sheffield United because I think that's the sort of games where we need to build Havertz up and we need to get Vieira potentially unlocking a defense.
yeah.
But I do, I do quite like the Party Rice Odegaard midfield on paper. But maybe it is just one that's suited for the big games. What do you think against a Sheffield United?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like same way to start the season, with that really early run. Like I wanted as much Havertz, Rice and Timber at the time minutes
Yeah.
just to get the new guys bedded in. But yeah, like with Champions League now, where you can't afford to rotate nowhere near as much as Europa
No.
League. Those sort of games, we want to get like a Smith Rowe or a Vieira or Havertz like really kicking on. But I'm really curious to see how Rice would do playing as an 8 in a game like that, because
Yeah.
he will be getting much more around the box in the build up and all that. And I think he's more than good enough to do a job doing
I
that.
think
So,
so. And someone
but
like him. Oh, gone.
I was just going to say, I was like, and where no one's really taken their chance at the moment for that left 8, like Vieira's had it and lost it. Havertz has obviously started with it and lost it. There's obviously a gap there. So I just don't want to see, I don't know, the party right back stuff.
Oh, I don't want to see that.
Yeah, I just don't want to see that. But I fear it could happen. I mean, we don't know if he's going to do it with Zinchenko there, but I fear it could
Yeah.
happen more.
Do you think that would happen in a Sheffield United-esque game, though, or you could see it consistently happening to give Zinchenko a breather?
Oh yeah, I only see Party ever inverting for the easy games. But saying that, I didn't think we'd do it in Palace away, and we done it Palace away. So
Yeah, same.
yeah, it is tough to call, but I just don't want to see it. I didn't mind it I wouldn't mind it in a home game versus Sheffield United, because it was literally, I think the difference from the Community Shield game against City to Nottingham Forest at home was Nketiah for Gabriel. So
Yeah.
it was a striker for a centre back, where you were just going to completely dominate the ball. The field tilt is going to be, 80% or something like that. So I don't mind it. I understand the logic to it, but it's not worked as much as we have hoped so far. I don't think.
No. Rice at left 8 is an interesting one, because what I look at in that left 8 role is purely off the ball.
Yeah.
Obviously, off the ball and obviously output, but I think the output comes because of the off the ball movement in that role. And that's where I look at him, and I think he is just someone that is so coachable, so quick. He's such a quick learner. And you see it in game yesterday. Like, there were a couple of times, I remember the ball got chipped into Nketiah, and there's the one where he kind of put it onto his right and he shot and it went wide. But if you look at that action again, who was running up beside him? Rice. And he just does these things naturally. And I think if you're looking for someone who can proactively run off the ball to create space, collapse defenses, I think he can do that in a heartbeat. So I'm intrigued by that. But
Yeah. You got to think, just go back to him about how good of a sign he is. It's like he's played so many roles for us already. He's played the 6, he's played the 8, he's had people inverting alongside him from the right hand side, the left hand side, and he's just knocked it out the park every single time. I mean, you got to think, like, he is that signing. I mean, you never know what's going to happen in football, but he's that type of guy who's going to be with us for a decade or so.
Yeah.
Consistently putting in those performances. So 105 mil seems like an absolute bargain now. It really does.
I know. It's scary. It honestly is. Just conscious of time. We did have one slide in here, which I'll kind of breeze through. It's not used this for a long time. This was the it's the old zone 14 and half space passing maps. And obviously zone 14, for people that are new, and if you're on the podcast, zone 14 is essentially a little box that is directly outside of the goal. And then half space is obviously either side of that. And what I found interesting about this was you're comparing the two teams, City and Arsenal, and you're just looking at this is just data without any context, right? But you look at the kind of zone 14 passes, and sure, in terms of getting into that area, that's the beauty zone, right? Like, once you're central, just outside the goal, you can go anywhere to try hurt opposition. And that's what we try to do. The fundamental premise of what we try to do as a team, we overload wide areas, and then we pivot, we move their structures, and we attack, well, through the half spaces, zone 14, whatever. But the passes into there was similar. They had 16, we had 15. But the half spaces, this is where I thought we were absolutely brilliant once we got into our groove. We had 37 to their 19.
Yeah.
And like, that's, again, it's something that I, just being completely honest, I didn't feel that when I was watching it. And I looked back when I was like putting the slides together, and it was like, whoa, that was nuts. And it's one of the, I'm sure this is the sort of game, if I rewatch this, like, without the emotion, like I said, you've seen me at football, I get very
No.
emotional. Like, um, if I rewatch this without the emotion, I'm sure this is a game where we just tactically were 10 out of 10. And I just thought, yeah, there's not much to say on this. And conscious of time, we've done the hour, but just thought that was really interesting to mention. I thought we were really smart with how once we got through that 20-minute period where we looked a little bit not clueless, but it didn't feel like we knew exactly what we were doing. Once we got through that, I thought we were attacking with purpose. And sure, the chances didn't come, but I feel like we were getting in the right areas against a team like City. It's so encouraging, so encouraging. Went full on Pep.
Yeah.
They're so good.
Yeah. Now, I was going to say, it made me think about Martinelli a little bit more as well, because I actually felt there's a few times that Martinelli was coming inside quite a lot.
Hmm.
He was coming inside, coming central, and I was thinking, it just felt like he wanted to take the game by the scruff of the neck and create everything by himself.
Yeah,
And it looked like, yeah, he was operating at half space quite a lot. And when you look on the right hand side, every game we're always going to have joy with, obviously it was Jesus instead of Saka, but
yeah,
Odegaard drifting over there, White helping out.
yeah.
So yeah, it just demonstrates that beautifully there.
You make a good point about Martinelli as well, trying to just do it himself. Like the amount of times this guy lost the ball and he's just sprinting back. I was thinking, Jesus, don't do your hammy again. But like
Yeah.
he's a joke. He's an
It felt like
absolute
he's come.
joke.
Sorry, I said it felt like he's come from like not just a prodigy and not a young 18-year-old from Brazil. It feels like he stepped up and he
He's
was a
the man now.
superstar. Yeah, like it felt
Yeah,
like he was like the Neymar of like Brazil. He felt like he just come on. He was the man yesterday. It was really good to see. And like now going into game week 9 after the international break, we've got Saka, Jesus, Martinelli, Party all back. So
yeah.
it's really, really inspiring.
I cannot wait to see. Well, hopefully we get through, but I cannot wait to see Martinelli in the knockouts in the Champions League. I think
Mm,
that is like destiny for him.
yeah.
Yeah, just conscious of time, and we'll go through to the Q&A if you're good for that. So I've been
Yeah.
starring a few questions in the background. So we had Dream Team Professor. Is Neto the guy? Is that someone that you would be happy with going for?
Yeah, I mean, I've actually been a fan of him. Well, when I put him in my FPL team at the start of last season, I was loving him. And he sort of had a bad year, but yeah, I
Oh,
feel
he
like
was injured. He'd had a bad injury, didn't he? To be fair.
yeah. But I feel like I think he's got the versatility which we need. He's got right foot, left foot, right wing, left wing. The thing when you mentioned Rafinha earlier, because I really wanted Rafinha at the time, but I
Yeah.
felt like he was a sort of signing where he wouldn't want to be on the bench and second to Saka. Where I feel like Neto would sort of know that he's got to work his way
Yeah.
into a starting place. So someone like Neto, I think, is a perfect signing for
I
us.
think so as well. I can see us doing it as well. I really think it's just one of those that just makes so much sense. There was another question that yeah, I have started this one. This was a good one from Uncle Mike. Question: You have 60 million to spend on one player. Do you go for Tony or Neto? I love
I
that question. I think that's
I
really
can't
good.
work out because I really love Tony, but the Osman rumors
Well,
and
after the Napoli social media
yeah, and
antics.
don't get me wrong, I've not seen enough of Osman to confidently say he is world class, but he is that sort of guy that you want to go for if it's going to happen. Like you want to dream big and go for the biggest, highest rated strikers in the game. So knowing we could only ever get one out of Tony or Osman, I really don't know which I'd rather because I really, really think Tony would be great for us as well.
Yeah.
But between Tony and Neto, I would go Tony.
Interesting. I'd go Neto, you know.
Really?
And this is what I just think. I think the way this team plays, I think we can cope at centre forward without Jesus. I think our unpredictability without Jesus, in my opinion, then comes from the wide areas, and that's why I still think we're short. Yeah, I think you can get
Interesting.
by with like Havertz up there. I think Nketiah showed I agree with you on his limitations, but I think you just kind of tweak the structure of the team and you kind of extract more from your wide players. Saying that, yeah, obviously I'd flipping love both, but if I had to pick one, I'm going Neto personally.
Really?
Let us know
Yeah.
in the chat what you guys think. I feel like that's one that would really, yeah,
Do
divide
you not
opinions.
think, like, when you think about tactical flexibility, do you not think, not like, just say City reverse fixture, Pep having no idea whether he's going to be up against Jesus or Tony, completely different players. I think that's such a like devastating option to have in your Arsenal, where
We,
because I don't know who would be first choice. You know, we could just rotate based on form between
yeah,
Tony and Jesus, whereas I feel like Neto is just a backup.
yeah. See, I don't
Backup
know.
Martinelli.
That's where you make the great point about the profile, right? And that's why I look at okay, Jesus or Havertz, like, and also this what I look at Tony and like 60 million, and like don't get me wrong, I really like him, and I just look at the kind of 60 mil. He's 28. Like, I'm not sure. For me, it's just going back to your original point, the profile. I think Jesus Havertz is fine profile. I think Nketiah is okay. I just look at Neto as don't think he would just be a backup. I think he could genuinely push to start on either flank as well.
Really?
And like, I'm not sure, not saying he would, but I think he would be able to push it. And again, I just think up front, I already think we have diversity. I would still love a centre forward. I still think we'd need one, but it's kind of that tricky question where if you have to pick one, I still think the need for a wide forward is higher than the need for a centre forward for me right now.
Really? Yeah. I
Yeah.
think we differ in our. I think we the main difference is our opinions of Nketiah. I
Yeah.
think because like you think Nketiah is fine, and I do think I'm being
For what it's
hypercritical
worth,
of
no,
Nketiah.
I don't. I think we need to upgrade him. I just think the need for it isn't as high as the lack of depth we have in the wide areas for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. But do you not think as well? Do you not think like Saka and Martinelli are on? We don't need to upgrade on them, like
No, but
whereas
I just
Jesus could be possibly upgraded. And just quickly on Tony, because
yeah,
I
go
did
for it.
sort of waver on him because he scored 20 goals last season. I'm thinking, God, we need a striker, proven who could score goals. But then I did remember that he scored a lot of penalties, and I was
Yeah,
thinking,
no, I think for me, I don't look at Tony as a monumental upgrade on Jesus. And
yeah,
I'm not looking for that monumental upgrade. I think Jesus is I'm not one of these people that buys into that we need a 20-25 goal a season striker. I think what Jesus does for the rest of the attack is he's a unicorn in that. And I think we need a different option, which I think we can find and will go for. I just think, and again, yeah, we're not looking to upgrade Saka and Martinelli, but I think the drop off from them to the Trossards, who I think is good, to the Nelsons, who I think
yeah,
is okay, is far too big for me. So yeah, it's an interesting one. It's ideal world, yeah, let's bloody go get both. But
yeah,
yeah, you're if we're picking one, you're going Tony, I'm going Neto. What was the next one I saw? I guess we kind of touched on this, but yeah. From Mike again, how can Michael Oliver give Martinelli those 2 yellows in quick succession last year and not give 2 to Kovacic? I still am mind blown by that away at Wolves. I was at that game and I was so confused being in the away end, but just
yeah. I did watch it
bonkers.
back though. I did watch it back today because I saw the clips and I was like, to be fair, Martinelli did commit. He did commit 2 yellow card offence, in my opinion. It was just bonkers how he got penalised like that.
Yeah, you just don't see it done like that though, do you? And the
Yeah,
yellow's a caution. It like it's, ah, yeah, you're right. It's 2 yellow card offences, but you could point out so many examples of that. And
yeah,
well, you look at yesterday.
yeah.
But yeah,
It clearly just feels like he wanted to send Martinelli off, and he just didn't want to send Kovacic off. Like he didn't. He wasn't being objective.
yeah, yeah, which is mad. And yeah, like we said earlier, just glad that it's not an actual talking point that defined the course of the game in the end. It's not a question, but just something from Bungle. Cannot wait for Timber's return. This team plus him cooking. Agree.
Yeah. I again about I've been really expressing my hypercritical nature on my players, and the thing with
Yeah,
Zinchenko.
we just beat City 1-0, and all we've done is criticise half of our team.
Yeah, but because I'm just looking at how can we upgrade, how can we
I know.
improve, blah blah blah, and it's like there's Zinchenko defensive frailty is a potential weakness. I know he didn't, he was good yesterday, but I'm hoping, and again, I've not seen enough of Timber to say for sure, but I'm hoping Timber can be just
You were
as good
huge
on
on
the
him in
ball.
pre-season. I remember. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, just feels. I feel like got a little bit more pace, hopefully a little bit more defensively better. And if he's just as good as Zinchenko on the ball, um, yeah, I think he could be a potential upgrade. And now we've seen him play left back instead of right back. I I have a hunch that he could end up being first choice for us.
Interesting. It'll be interesting to see. I just can't believe how unlucky we've been with that injury.
Oh,
Like
killer.
you look at the kind of starters finishers thing, being able to flex the squad, the Champions League is literally cannot make that up. Just flying through the final few. We'll look to wrap up soon. Got a Max. It's Max. This is my mate that I was sat with yesterday. I was like, who's Maxi
Oh.
Arsenal? Where do we feel Havertz fits in now? With Martinelli now back, that front three, including Saka, Jesus, and Trossard, he doesn't get in. And Partey now back, do we feel his opportunities are limited in the Prem?
Again, it's one of those things where everything's going to be based on form. I still think Havertz is going to get a lot of minutes over the season.
I do as well.
I still have hope for him in that left
So,
eight. I still
so
honestly
do I.
do. But yeah, I think like what we said before, that left eight is still completely up for grabs. I think
Yeah.
Vieira's lost it now. Smith Rowe's sort of looking quite good. So there's a lot of competition, and I think there's gonna be a lot of rotation there. But we could also see what I said earlier about just Partey, Rice, Odegaard for almost most games, just because Rice can easily do that role as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think it's something about making Havertz fit in. I think we gave him minutes at the start of the season to bed him in, but now it's crunch time. There's no time or opportunity to just make players play into form. It's either
Yeah.
we play the best and that's it.
Well said. I pretty much agree. I still think he'll get consistent minutes. I think like 5 subs is such a game changer for giving people substantial minutes. I think we'll see him at centre forward. I think we'll see him left eight. I think, like you said, unfortunately, I think we will see Partey invert from right back sometimes, even if it's in game, like he doesn't start there, but we finish there maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, Havertz will still get minutes. Arteta has been way too bullish on him in public to just leave him on the sidelines. He'll consistently play. And the Sheffield United game, for what it's worth, right now, I'd bet that it's like Rice, Havertz, and Odegaard. But obviously, the Chelsea game could change things. I think Partey's going to be eased back and look to bring on to manage games more than kind of get him starting. I think he's someone that will have a key part to play in the crunch time of the season. But yeah, to the actual question, I think Havertz will fit in multiple roles still and get consistent minutes. And then just flying through, I think we're done with the questions, but just a few more comments. Mike answered to, I think it was Mike's own question. He'd go, was it his question or was it Bungle's?
It was, yeah.
Mike said he'd go Neto cover for Saka. Oh, we got a celebrity in the house. Tommy Gunn, obviously. Did you see that when he went to Bournemouth and
mate, doing the Lord's work for us all.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Legend.
Evening, Tommy. Bungle's gone same as you. He's gone for Tony on the Tony or Neto, and he said Osman's too pricey in it. And then Mike, just to wrap up, we went, I love Tony, but think we can go bigger and better. And I think kind of add to that. That's kind of where I was with it as well. To be fair, I could see it. So go.
Oh, sorry. I was just to say, like, what Bungle's point about being too pricey is like we get to next summer, just so we don't spend too much in January. We get to next summer, Timber's back.
After we've won the quad as well.
Yeah. It's like we've solved a lot of depth issues. Like, where do we actually spend the money? I think we can go big on like one striker signing.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, a right wing cover, maybe another fullback after losing Tierney, just to get back up to 8 great defenders again.
Yeah.
And then that's it. I can't think of any other position where we need more depth.
No,
or more signings.
That's in October now, right? Things change so quickly.
Yeah,
so,
of course,
but yeah, based on now, I kind of agree. To be honest, I think next year will be again like ruthlessness in terms of. I think there'll be certain areas of the squad that we don't see now that just get chopped in. It's like, okay, because Arteta, he's ruthless. I think he will look to upgrade any marginal gain he can get. He will do. But yeah, Neto's one. It depends on Wolves' situation and where they are in the league, but I could really see us trying to make that happen in January. One thing I'm certain on, we will get additions in January. I think depending on where we're at in the Champions League, like who we've drawn against, all of that stuff, where we're in the league. Mate,
I feel like
quad is on.
Yeah, I feel like Neto just really feels like an Arsenal player as well. He always
does.
feels like a Martinelli. He kind of really reminds me of Martinelli actually. But yeah, it feels like a lot of these times with these rumours, where these substantial rumours are like floating about, it feels like they're always real. So
It's like the smoke without fire saying, isn't it?
yeah. It was obviously the Rice thing was really early on, and then it was just obviously apparent that it was happening. So hopefully, fingers crossed, the
Yeah.
likes of Tony and Neto are our main targets.
Yeah, but yeah, that's that. That I think this is the longest episode of the season, and no, that's good. Two fucking right. We just beat City 1-0.
Yeah.
And obviously we're joint top of the league with that shit lot down the road, the chicken on a ball. They won't last. Yeah, we're joint top of the league. We're still unbeaten. And you look at it and you think, oh, flipping hell, if we didn't concede like a scrappy goal against Fulham, Jorginho doesn't make that mistake against Spurs, like this team has gears to go to. I still don't think we're entirely firing on all cylinders. I still think there's a level. I think defensively we're set. I still think the attack has grooves that it can get to. And I think we're on the cusp of blowing teams away. I really do. I think we are in for a special season. And yeah, mate, thanks a lot for joining. Obviously, what's your Twitter again? It's at FPL Plonker, where people can follow you, right? And you said you sometimes jump on the Juice Pod, is it?
Yeah, I'm a pundit for Juice, so I
That's
sometimes jump on there. But yeah, I just want to say thanks for having me. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's good to finally get you on.
Yeah, I've been buzzing to come on for a while, but yeah, I apologise if it has got a bit too long, but
oh mate, I loved it. I could do this for another hour. Just
that's the thing. That's the
thing.
every
could.
sentence,
Not sure it'll make good listening.
Yeah, every sentence you say, I want to say this, and then I think you need to say another sentence. I want to say this actually. It's like there's just so much to talk because it's an exciting time to be an Arsenal fan right now. So
it really is, man. Yeah, but yeah, obviously international break now. Saka get rested up. Trossard come back fit, and we will be there at Stamford Bridge. Hopefully, a repeat of last season. Yeah, Aaron, thanks again, everyone. Cheers for joining.
cheers,
Up the
guys.
fucking Arsenal.